All right, so for the compound interest calculations assignment, if you head to chapter 2 on Moodle, you'll find this assignment there. I went ahead and downloaded the PDF into Notability so I could write on it and give hopefully some clearer directions while you're working from home. There is a link included at the top of this assignment. That link will take you to an online calculator that you will use the information in these two tables, so Investor 1, Investor 2, and these two tables to compute or calculate some estimated retirement savings based on the information in each table for each investor. So I'm going to head back to Moodle so I can click on the link that's in the assignment. All right, so here is the calculator that the link will take you to. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. And these boxes over here on the left where it says enter your information, the information you're entering here is the information that's on that PDF. So I'm going to toggle between both screens to show you what I'll be typing into the calculator and what I'll be doing with the information that I do type in. So I'm going to look at Investor 1 first, and I'm going to type in for each box for the current age. I'm going to use 25 years old. The age I plan to retire, I'm going to change to 65. If you look at the right side of my screen, you can see that there's a 67 in there, so I'm going to be changing that. For the box that says how much have you saved for retirement, I'm going to use $0. I'm going to add to that, or to the next box, that I'm going to be contributing $1,000 monthly. And then for the annual rate of return, this is the part that in reality we cannot predict, we cannot control. But listening to and having read from a lot of different financial experts and advisors, the suggestion that many of them make in terms of what number to use when calculating estimated retirement savings based on investments, to use anywhere between, I've heard quite a wide range, anywhere between 6 and 10%. So I went with something kind of in the middle. So I'm going to switch to typing into the calculator on the right side of my screen. So for the first part, I'm going to type in that current age that I've provided of 25 years old. In the next box, I'm going to change that to 65 instead of 67. For how much I've saved, I'm going to put $0. And my intention there is to show you in this particular calculation what it would look like if you didn't start saving for retirement and investing until you were 25 years old. How much will you contribute monthly? I'm going to add $1,000. And what do you think your annual return will be? You're actually just going to put in the number. You don't need to convert anything to decimals here. The calculator does that for you. So I'm going to hit calculate. And this green number, that $3.4 million number, I'm going to switch back to my note here and make a note of that, Investor 1. Based on that information, if for 40 years, because that's how many years are between 25 and 65, the numbers I put in, if we invested consistently $1,000 a month for 40 years, that's a long time, that our estimated retirement savings would be worth $3,491,008. So I'm just going to make a note of that because I'm going to be using that in just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and actually enter in all of the information for Investor 2 into the calculator. The only thing that's different from Investor 2 to Investor 1 is when they started investing. They both plan to retire at the same age of 65, both starting the calculation portion at $0, assuming for our Investor 1 that at the age of 25, that was the first time they started investing for their retirement. For our Investor 2, we're going to start at 40. Our 40-year-old Investor 2 is also contributing $1,000 a month with an 8% estimated annual return. So I'm going to scroll back up to the calculator and adjust those numbers. So I'm going to type 40 for my current age, leave the retirement age at 65, leave how much I've saved for retirement at 0, leave my monthly contribution at $1,000, and leave my estimated annual return to be 8 and hit calculate. So I'm going to head back over to my note and make a note of that. For Investor 2, the estimated retirement savings is $951,026. So starting 15 years later, so starting at 40 versus 25, makes a huge difference in the amount of money that I might have based on the calculations, again, that we use with a little bit of speculation using that 8%. But there's a big difference between $950,000 and $3.5 million. So what I didn't do on the first calculation that I'm going to do on the second one is just scroll a little bit more. There's some summarized information at the bottom of this web page if you just keep scrolling. One thing I want to show you, I'm going to make this part of my screen just a little bit bigger, is this graph at the bottom and the numbers right above the graph. So it says initial balance $0, contributions and growth. So that contributions part is how much money over the span of, let's see, this was 25 years. Our investor 2 contributed $300,000 of his or her own money, and $651,000 of the total $951,000 was just growth. That's interest earned. That's not money that, if I were investor 2, that's not money I actually put in, but that's money that my money has earned. And then at the bottom, this is just for reference. This might be helpful for the infographic part of this assignment, but it does show you a graph, and over time, it shows you how that investment grew and changed. You could click this button that says pie chart and change just the visual. Instead of a bar chart with vertical bars, it would show you a circle. But I actually, just personally, I like the bar chart. I like to see the exponential growth, the curve of that graph, those green bars getting higher and higher as time goes on. So I'm going to go back to my note on Notability, back to the assignment directions. So the only thing you really probably should write down or document are just those 2 totals that I wrote down, because you'll be using those for the main part of this assignment. So I'm going to scroll to the next page, and this little tiny bulleted list is what I want you to pay attention to most. So for each investor 1 and 2, you're going to create what I'm calling an infographic, which just means a visual representation of this information. So I don't want you necessarily to fill out a table and just write numbers down, but actually take this information and make a visual. So I'll show you some examples of those visuals in just a minute. But on this visual infographic, I want you to include these 5 bullets. So 1, the age they started investing. So investor 1, that was 25 years old. Investor 2, that was 40 years old. Their annual contribution amount. Now right here I wrote annual, but in the table above, I gave you monthly. I honestly do not mind if you, on your infographic, write $1,000 a month, or if you multiply that by 12, that would be $12,000 a year. So you can decide for yourself if you want to write it, type it, or include it on your infographic as monthly or annually. The investment time span, so that's their starting age. I'm going to make a note down here while I'm talking. That's their retirement age, which for both investors was 65, minus their starting age. So for investor 1, I'm just going to write I1 for investor 1. That would be 65 minus 25. So that'd be 40 years. They invested for a time span of 40 years. For investor 2, I'm going to write I2. That'd be 65 minus 40, because they didn't start investing until they were 40. That is 25 years. So these 2 numbers represent the investment time span. So I'm just asking you to somewhere include that. And again, I'll show you an example of how you can do that. The estimated rate of return for each, that was 8%. And the total contributions or earnings, that last part, that total contributions, that's what the calculator is going to give you. So I'm going to draw an arrow just right up here. Those 2 numbers are my totals. All right, so I'm going to scroll to some examples. I have more examples to actually show you that you actually have access to on Moodle as well. This is taking a little bit of time to load because it's such a large picture. But this is one example of what I'm asking you to create. And I would go so far as to say this example is above and beyond and just absolutely amazing and impressive. Your infographic does not need to be like this. This is a sample that I actually pulled straight from Dave Ramsey's website. So this is not anything I would expect a student to make, expect any of you to make, but it is an example. It includes all of the information I've asked you to include: when they started investing, how much they invested every year, There we go. I'm going to scroll out or zoom out just a little bit. Their totals, their contributions, and the interest earned. And then it shows just a side-by-side comparison. So Blake's investments are in yellow and Jack's are in green. And you can see over time, Jack, at the end, by the time they retire, Jack has or will have more. Here's a second example that's I think it's quite a bit simpler, but again, it still includes everything I'm asking for. For each investor, what time or what age they started investing, how much they invested. It's not letting me write on the picture at the moment. My Apple Pen might not have any battery left. There we go. And then at the very bottom of this graph, instead of including it next to their names, it showed down here the 8% annual rate of return. And then these large blue and red numbers are their totals, their contributions plus their earnings. So I'm asking you to create something like this. You can use these as inspiration. What I ask that you don't do is just take these and write on top of them, but you can make yours look very, very similar. You can use Notability and do this by hand. There are 2 websites that I have personally used before that I will write right here that have templates, pre-made templates you can use to create things just like what you see above. One is Pictochart.com. The other is Canva.com. There are others. If you just were to Google search infographic template or infographic creator, I'm sure you could find other ones, but those 2 I've just used personally, so I feel like I can recommend them. But like I said, you're welcome to handwrite this on Notability or even on a piece of paper. I'm going to head back to Moodle. And on Moodle, I have uploaded for you. So I'm going to go back to chapter 2, just the main chapter 2 page. And right down here, you have a folder called Compound Interest Infographic Examples. And these are examples that they're actual students that I have had when I've done this assignment that they've created. Again, they have everything I've asked for. You can even see at the bottom, this person used Pictochart. But this is a phenomenal example, and the examples I've provided are good examples. So don't think yours has to look just like this, but all of these met exactly what I was asking for. This particular student, where it says clearly Jim was able to make much more, that was something they chose to include a little summary. I didn't ask for that, and I'm not asking you to do that, but you're more than welcome. Here's another example. Again, very simple. This student used a pre-made template, a website. I'm not sure which website they used, but I remember that they used a pre-made template and filled it out. I'm just going to go to this very last one. This was a student that used Notability. They wrote by hand. They used the graph that was on the website to create this pink and blue graph. It included absolutely everything I asked for, kept it nice and simple, and I think it looks really nice. So I hope that helps clear things up a little bit. If I can still help clarify any more, please feel free to reach out via email, and I will do my very best. Thanks.